Hi, so in this section, I'm going to just cover a little bit about GKE, which is the Google Kubernetes engine, and it's also called, it has a version of Anthos, which is called on-prem. It runs on bare metal or VMware. So the difference, right? So why I am doing this section is because when I first started working on GKE, it was very difficult for me to understand, and there weren't any really good documents because it's probably it's everything is under the you have to browse on the Google documentations. I mean, they have pretty extensive documentation, but they're not. It was like when you start looking at already existing cluster, it's very hard because it is completely managed. So it's definitely more. It's established and stable because they take care of all the management. So even if you're running it on prem, you don't have to really worry about your like one manager, because a lot of the times if you're managing your own clusters, you really have to worry about the control plane, because if one of the nodes goes down, it can affect your whole cluster. There is a split brain scenario that can happen on and also there can be the whole cluster, if the control plane goes down, then it can create a lot of issues because then no new deployments will work. And then you have to bring back the cluster, with the three nodes and then with all that. So in this case, what it does, it takes the worry from our brain because they manage it for us, even the way their architecture is set up on-prem. So if you can see, the way they do is so the first thing is that any cluster you cannot just access from anywhere, which is the very good thing. They have a part of this is an admin workstation where you can install GKE, Gcloud, and all those commands, and then you directly access the clusters from there. Then there is an admin cluster, which is basically the control plane, which is in other nodes like in EKS, that's the EKS control plane. And in your own kubeadm, if you set up a cluster, the manager plane will be the admin cluster. But the beauty of it is that you can choose a number of, you can give a number of IPs, you can select a number of IPs, like you can set aside, like let's say 7 or 8, and it's up to the configuration, and it picks any three nodes, and you can specify how many you want. So you can specify 3, and those 3 replicas, they will pick it and they will form the cluster on their own. And if it goes down, one of the node goes down, it's the responsibility of the configuration to bring up the another node. So you don't have to really worry about once it's set up. And then there is this user cluster. So and then there is a separate kube configuration for admin cluster, and there is a separate configuration kube config file for user cluster. So you can know where you don't have to actually use or look at the, and it should be encrypted and kept somewhere, because you don't really need to access the admin cluster unless you're really working on something related to the upgrade, or you want to update the cluster or something. So basically you will only need is the kube, like for your deployments, you only need the kube configuration file of your user cluster. So user cluster, again, is the same as any other product. It has a bunch of worker nodes which can be grouped, which they call as a node pool. Like if you set this up in an EKS, it will be called as your default node group or node managed node group. But in this case, you will have node pools. So let's say you can pick one node pool or two node pools, and if you have really heavy workloads to be run, you can specify the number of the capacity you want on that work node. You can specify everything, your CPU, memory, and how many of those you want. You can even specify the disk sizes on each of the nodes. And then if you want lighter ones, like for running stateless and lighter workloads, you can choose another node pool. So that's the beauty of it. And then there is an ingress piece which comes with it, which is actually Istio gateway, which I've already covered in previous sections. So that's what and they also have, with the latest, have an ASM, which is the service mesh. And on the other side, another good thing I saw was that they have their own, what they call a CISO load balancer, and can be configured, or it can be manually, it can be configured whatever you want. And there'll be 2 nodes specified, like as part of those LBs, load balancer, and one of them is a master and another is like a standby, or they're both active, but the master takes all the load. And when you hit a service from outside, it directly comes to your seesaw load balancer, and it's from here it goes to the ingress proxy, and then the proxy knows where the service is running, the endpoint of the service, and then from their service it goes to the wherever the container that's running. And the ingress proxy can either be can you can use it to pipe to for SSL pass through, and you can set up these certs as part of the Istio setup on the ASM. So then your SSL will terminate at ASM, and within the ASM it will use those, it's TLS between all the services workloads running when you're using ESM. So then it's anyway, from container to container, like from pod to pod, it will be encrypted. And until ASM, you'll have directly, SSL. So it's all secure. And also they have a lot of good features about other security features, like especially like secrets. You can encrypt. So the secrets normally when they are stored in the container, you can encrypt it as part of your deployment. But what about when it's stored in the master, like the control plane etcd, which stores these secrets? It's there. Then you can also encrypt this. That is called the encryption at rest. So that is also what comes with this. So it comes with a lot of great features. So in this, that's what I just want to give a high level of what GKE at a high level looks like. And when you start deploying and working with it, there are various components that needs to be set up. So there is an admin piece, there's a load balancer piece, there's admin here, user, there are various node pools, and it gives you much more flexibility to do things that as compared to the other products. So in here, I'm going to talk about a little bit on the Anthos, which is the Google Cloud Kubernetes engine. And as you can see over here, um, these are the options, right? You can set it up in the cloud, and you can also set it up on-prem, and you can also set up other clouds. For example, if you want to set it up on Amazon, you can do that. And it comes with really great features, especially if you see something that is called as a configuration management, right? So configuration management is basically if you need, a lot of the times a lot of changes goes on once you set up a cluster, right? A lot of changes goes on in it. So what ACM does, it is it will keep the clusters in sync, right? So if you have multiple clusters but and then you can set up those configurations, and you can check in your code, and then it all becomes IAC, right? Where you can simply run the ACM, and if you build a new cluster, and you can run the ACM, and it will deploy to the cluster. So you don't have to run your Helm charts or anything to redeploy any configurations. In the similar case, there is other features, important features, ASM that I already talked about it, which is basically service to service mesh and service to service communication, which is TLS, and then it provides a lot of other features. And other than that, it comes with a lot of inbuilt features about security and monitoring. And it has Prometheus or installed as part of it, and I already covered Prometheus in one of the other lectures. So this is a pretty cool product if somebody wants to give it a try. And I have covered like the details of high level architecture, and there are a lot of great they cover their they have covered how it looks like and what it is. So on underline, you can have whatever you have. The cluster is basically, it will still look the same with an admin cluster, a user cluster, a service mesh, and then it's all managed